Brexiteer Jacob ReesMogg said Theresa May must follow in former Prime Minister Margaret Thatcher's footsteps by showing mettle and steel and rejecting the EU's hostile Brexit demands. Speaking in the House of Commons, Mr. ReesMogg said, "Will my righthonourable friend clearly reject the negotiating mandate handed out by the European Council, paragraph 1 of which undermines the principle of nothing being agreed until everything has been agreed, and paragraph 4 of which would make the United Kingdom, in the transition phase, no more than a vassal state, a colony of the European Union." Parliament TV Tory MP Jacob ReesMogg warned the UK could become an EU colony after Brexit. Speaker John Bercow was forced to silence the Commons after Mr. ReesMogg made the statement. Mr. Bercow said, "I want to hear the honourable gentleman in full flow. Let me hear. I want to hear the fullness of the flow." Mr. ReesMogg said, "Mr. Speaker, I want to urge my righthonourable friend to model herself on her predecessor, the late noble Baroness Thatcher, and show real mettle and steel in rejecting these rather hostile negotiating terms from the European Union." The Prime Minister responded and insisted negotiations are between two parties. She said Britain will be very clear about its hopes for a future partnership with the EU on issues such as trade and security. She said, "I set out the framework for that in my Florence speech." Mrs. May continued and said the purpose of the implementation period is to ensure businesses and individuals can continue to operate. She said businesses must be reassured of the basis in which they are operating while the changes are put in place that will lead to the future partnership between the EU and UK. EU leaders announced on Friday that significant progress has been made on key Brexit issues in order to move on to the second stage of negotiations. The European Council concluded there will be a transition period of around 2 years after Brexit. It stated Britain must follow EU rules, while, as a third country, it will no longer have a seat in EU institutions. Chancellor Philip Hammond indicated the UK would not quibble over the transition deal, which he said will effectively replicate the current status quo. Friday, December 8, 2017. Here is the 15-page Brexit deal in full. The President of the European Council, Donald Tusk, said Brexit means the UK will be stripped of any of its rights while it remains in the single market during a transition period. Mr. Tusk said, "As you know, the UK has asked for a transition of about 2 years while remaining part of the single market and customs union, and we'll be ready to discuss this, but naturally we have our conditions. I propose that during this period the UK will respect the whole of EU law, including new law. It will respect budgetary commitments, it will respect judicial oversight, and of course all related obligations."